Podcasting from sunny Clearwater, Florida, home to one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. Each week, we bring you real conversations with inventors, entrepreneurs, and product pros navigating the wild world of innovation. Whether you're just getting started or ready to scale, this is your place to fuel up and launch forward. And now here's your host, innovator, author, and invention expert, Carmine Danisco.
What's up, everyone? Carmine Danisco here on the Launch Network. We are recording the launch pad today, 8th season. Yeah, you guys have stuck with me for 8 seasons. Unless you're a new user, I welcome you. And you'll find out I talk too much. You'll probably get mad, leave a bad review for me. But I do give out some information that people want to hear. That's why we got so many listeners. I mean, thank you all for sticking with us throughout all of these years. You know, today I'm going to talk a little bit about, I got a guest coming on. I'll introduce him in a second. I brought him on because, you know, we're fielding a lot of questions as we get not only closer to the holidays, but as all of this craziness with tariffs and taxes and customs and all of that, people are really looking to capitalize on the inventory they have, the products that they have, you know, what they have in stock and what they should be doing. They're really concentrating on selling products themselves. Yeah, they put them on Amazon and they put them on other stores. But a lot of times, like Amazon's a monster. I'll say it all day. I buy things on Amazon, but I don't list stuff on Amazon, one, because I really am not good at it. But they take a lot out of your profits. And, you know, a lot of people are turning to their own websites or what I call third-party sites like Mercury Shopping, the mercuryshop.shop. The mercury.shop is one of our sponsors here at the Launchpad, and people are turning to that site too because they don't take out all those fees. They kind of do the same thing, you know, but Amazon's huge. No one's going to really beat Amazon to the punch. But anyway, we field a lot of questions about how people can get sales, how they can build up sales, how they can get their product in front of the right people. And, you know, it's a tough one. It's really a tough one. So I brought on a gentleman, Jay Emma, who really specializes in getting products in front of your customers, or, you know, people that have product and factories and production in place. You want to start doing that now, getting the knowledge, getting the experience, and really selling the product. And Jay will tell you this too, hopefully. Selling the product could be sometimes just as hard as the manufacturing process, or sometimes even harder. But let's bring Jay on. We'll talk a little bit about this and what he can do for you, or what we can do for you, and what's going on out in the world. Jay, what's up, my friend?
Carmine, it's good to see you, my friend.
It's
happy to be here. And what a great topic. There's a million things that we can talk about related to this. And I remember having a conversation with you about how many people make a product and they don't even think about selling the product. They're just happy to make it. How many people have manufactured a product and they just think people are going to automatically come and buy the product?
Yeah, it happens. So funny you bring that up. And it's not that they're doing something wrong. Many of us, we're inventors, we're product developers. Haven't been in the business realm yet. So to us, what's the first step? Having an invention idea. Let's get it made, you know, and you don't think about those processes. You don't know what you don't know until you need to know it. So you're exactly right, Jay.
Yeah. And, you know, actually having an audience or having a place to speak where there's people listening is more important than even manufacturing a product. Obviously, if you're making a product, that's great. But an audience is more important than a product. I was just talking to a friend of mine who had a company on the Inc. 500 and sold it, and currently makes a tremendous amount of money selling programs online and has a massive following. And he says people do it backwards. And you know, and it's so interesting how people want to craft the offering and craft the product and perfect all of this, but really everyone should be working on building their following and building their audience first. Now, even if the product isn't done, even if the product isn't on a napkin, even if you don't have a product, start building an audience if you feel like you want to be a leader and you want to do something in the business realm. Am I right?
You know, you are. to a sense. And obviously, there's so many different ways to do that. A lot of us that are inventors, one, we don't know how the hell to do that. So all the stuff you just said, I'm like, okay, but say I'm an inventor and I'm working all day. I'm a plumber, or I'm a teacher, and so I don't know how to do those things. So is there little things I can do whilst my product is being developed, or while I'm working with a manufacturer, things like that, to build up that, realm, or to build up that noticeability, to build up my following without overwhelming me? Because, a lot of us that are older, like me, I'm friggin' old. I'm not a really big social media person.
Yeah, I think it's common. And a lot of people that are over, I don't know, 45 or 50 are just not very familiar with it, not very comfortable with it. I think the best way to start, and we're working with someone who has a product and they're doing a good job, just grassroots, reaching out to Facebook groups that would be interested in that product. They're reaching out to all of their friends and family, and they are taking an interest in reaching out to their entire sphere of influence, asking their sphere of influence to share with other people that might be affiliated with any kind of groups that could potentially be interested. And any of us can use AI to say, hey, give me a list of groups that might be interested in this product. And then all of a sudden you have those groups. And then that alone will give you enough homework to find a massive number of groups to reach out to find out where it's appropriate to see if you can introduce your product, introduce yourself.
Wow, I'd never thought of that. So AI, there you just again shows my age. Use AI and say, hey, whatever. What are some of the groups on like Facebook, on Instagram? It's like, what are some of the top groups in this product category that I can, and then you can get those groups and reach out to them. Is that kind of what you're saying? Or is there a better platform, or do you have to see what kind of product you have? That's actually a great idea to utilize AI, since I don't really use it for really doing that research for me.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not an expert in AI, but I know that AI can give you answers to those questions that you're not going to come up with on your own, and even give you suggestions of specific groups. So it could be general, but it also could say, hey, these particular groups, give me 50 groups of Facebook groups or Instagram accounts that might be potentially interested in this product. And then all of a sudden you can find those people and have a list, and it just gives you some place to start if you're a beginner. And that's really, like I said, I'm not an expert in utilizing AI, and there are AI tools that can help to do that as well, but that's certainly not a bad way to start. But in the beginning, certainly as you're making your product, you definitely have to look at who you're going to introduce it to. Friends, family, business associates, people that you think are influential that can also send information out to discover who could potentially be interested, because that's how things work. We're always 6 degrees of separation. How many people have a story of meeting someone in an elevator, or you had lunch with someone and they knew someone that connected you with somebody that made a big deal? I remember I met a gentleman in a taxi cab, and I introduced him to a friend of mine who had a branding agency, and that gentleman, they ended up working together, and the gentleman gave my friend a few $100,000 a year worth of business for about 10 years, 9 or 10 years. And so it was a couple $100,000 a year for 10 years. And all I did was because he had a relationship with me and had me know his company and recognize the importance of speaking about his company, I did that. So who can you reach out to that might be in touch with some people you don't even know? It could be somebody unrelated. You have to just be willing to talk. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and say, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm excited about. And that's really the best way to start, because sometimes if you don't have all of the answers, a lot of times we tend to be paralyzed. I know I struggle with that, wanting to be over-informed, and sometimes you just have to start with step one and reach out to the people that you know and look for potential channels that might be interested in your product.
Yeah, I
That's a
actually
start.
like that. Yeah, I like that because, you're going to tell people about this anyway. So you might as well use your fan base, your friends, or your tribe, as people call it, to get started. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
those people, will buy your product just to get things going.
Yeah.
People will always have, and Jay, there's people who always have an idea of, hey, you should turn that around. You should paint it a different color. You should have, everybody wants to give you suggestions on your product, but, just sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it. When you make
Yeah.
money, is the best way to really get the product going.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I want to go with a specific type of question. So one question that we get, I'm looking it over, is people are using Amazon. But I get the question all the time, should they have their own website? And I always say yes. But, there's things you need to do if you have your own website, right? The web is a pretty big place. And just because your website, people aren't going to find you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, having a website alone is good, but this, cost and time to learn to drive traffic to the website. And there's challenges using social media for a lot of people. But it is something, if Amazon, if it's going to prohibit you from moving your product forward, then don't worry about the website right now, because you just want to move forward in some way. But there are cost-effective ways, and this is why it's important to talk to people that have done it successfully, because you can spend a lot of time and money on a website, and it more time and money that's net than necessary. And again, I'm not an expert. I know experts, but I'm not an expert in websites. I know experts. And what I can tell you is a lot of people overspend, and they overspend time and money on their websites. So just make sure when you're doing that you're speaking to the right person, and because that's really, really important. But yeah, obviously you're going to make more money on your own website than you are on Amazon. So you'd rather, it's an important piece to it. It shouldn't be the only piece. And that's why, right, Carmine? I mean, how many different channels do you want to be selling a product? You don't know where it might take root somewhere you haven't even thought. You might go to
Yeah.
a trade show, and all of a sudden there's a different application to your product that you didn't even think about. But if they're going to place the 20,000 units order, then you're going to be like, okay, well, I think I'm going to change direction a little bit. So
Yeah.
you have to be willing to pivot.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Utilizing the Amazon obviously has a lot of eyeballs on Amazon, but what people don't realize, Amazon spends billions of dollars a year to drive traffic to their website. So even though you're using it and millions of people are using it, they're still spending money to drive traffic to the Amazon website. So if you come up with your website, is great. And as Jay said, you should have a website, but you have to figure out how you're going to get people to your website to buy it. And a lot of us don't know those things. So hiring an expert or a person to do that is probably a great way to do that, right? So Jay, so you can hire somebody to do some of your social media. You can hire somebody to reach out to influencers. You can reach out to people to drive traffic to your site. But when people do that, they seem to get caught up in all of this craziness. And I think people all of a sudden will shy away from it. Then the website is dormant. It's there, but then there's no one going to it, And I always try to tell people, and Jay, get your input on this, is pick one thing to start off as. I think that's kind of what Jay said earlier. Pick one thing, bring somebody in to help you. I'm not big on spending too much money on that stuff, because it should be under kind of a performance thing, but you don't want to overwhelm yourself either. I'm just yapping on, Jay, but what do you think? I mean, what's the best way to get some people, get some traffic to the website? What do you think people should do?
It's initially, again, I think, like you said, what can you do for free that can be fairly effective? And a lot of people, they dismiss the power of reaching out to hundreds of friends or thousands of friends or going to trade shows. Start following a lot of people and asking them to follow you back. And if they're influential, then that's helpful as well. And there's so many opportunities on YouTube to learn from people that have these little YouTube shorts that give you so many different tips here and tips there. And so once you start making a decision that you have to make this a category, okay, well, how do I drive traffic to the website? The real answer is be a student of it, do everything you can to lean towards it. But you have to start with your own mouth and your own friends and family if that's all you have. And then what I would do is just start exploring on YouTube, go on to and try to get the tips from the experts so that you'll discover some of the things that you're missing, because there's a lot of free courses, like you said, Carmine, before you start spending money. There's a lot of people that'll tell you do this, do this, do that, and some of it won't make sense or won't be applicable, and you just don't apply it. But some of it is really valuable information, and you start to discover some of these people. You can look at them and you can say, wow, I'm looking at their following and I'm looking at their success. These people know what they're talking about. So that's really the key. And then when you start hearing people from different vantage points say the same thing, from different industries, but they say the same thing and they're both successful, or there's several of them, and there's a pattern to what they're saying in terms of reaching out, in terms of how to drive this traffic to the website. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to get help. Sure, it's okay to spend a little bit of money. You want to make sure you're not breaking the bank, but if you can get an advocate or somebody to do a little work for you, and you have a few dollars to invest in yourself, all it does is basically speed up the process, and that's a good thing to do.
And I know you help people with some of this stuff, and you have some packages. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that later, which is awesome. So, and you could tell when Jay is talking, he's trying not to sell his stuff, because this is what he does, but it's just very nice of him to come on here and give some of this information and some of this background. So talk a little bit about it. I know you work on this, and I always thought it was so easy. I'm just going to reach out to an influencer and I'm going to have them, sell my product for me, and I'll give them some money. What's the process to really do that?
I mean, some influencers, a lot of them, everybody reaching out to these influencers all the time, and we see it. I see it all the time. They get bombarded with questions and, oh, my product's great. I want to show you something. I want to send you something, all that. And that's great. A lot of people just are not responsive. Some are. And then a lot of these people are working with agencies, and you have to know how to work with the agencies in order to find a good fit. Look, I love people, and I love when people create something that's valuable. I want to help them, like you do, Carmine. You've been doing it for decades, and you want to do what you can to turbocharge someone's efforts, and you want to put them in front of the right people and all that. But there's a process. There's a way to communicate with these people, and then there's a way to negotiate the terms to make sure that either the influencer is getting paid properly, or the arrangement with the agency is right. And you have to know what that is. But when you can find the right fit, it's very exciting. I mean, you see a lot of people getting traction when the right influencer, whether it's an athlete or a lifestyle influencer or somebody in sports or this kind of thing, when they talk about it and it starts to go organic, then it goes beyond that influencer, because you're really just trying to get traction with one or two people, and that's a lot of times what it takes to really get some movement and some momentum.
What are some of the things that these influencers are looking for? Do they want you to have sales? Do they want you to, are they going to ask you to help them? Because again, some of us, like me, I have maybe 5 ways to get my product out on the market, right? And I got to pick one, because one, I'm working. I have to make money to pay these people while I'm trying to sell my product. I don't have time. So I decide, hey, I'm going to try to use an influencer. What do I got to do? I have to have the product ready. Do I got to send them some? Do they ask what kind of commissions? Do they ask do they charge me to do that stuff? I mean, it's crazy that these influencers have agencies, right? I mean, did that surprise you when you first started doing this?
Yeah, it's so interesting. What surprised me was how some of the smaller influencers that you would think wouldn't have an agency because they're too small. If they have 10,000 followers, you would think, why would they have an agency? But some of them do. And then there's people with 100,000 followers that don't have an agency. And there's pros and cons to that. And every agency is going to be different, and every influencer is going to be different. Obviously, it's good to have product on hand so you can send it to them. Some people are looking for unique products. Some people are looking for that wow, that pizzazz. Some people are looking for the product that adds the most value. And some people are looking for the product that's most profitable. So it really depends on who you're looking for. It's either the pizzazz, the wow factor, the unique factor, the profitability factor, or the value, or this is specifically going to meet the needs of my audience. And those are the three, I think, general categories. And I'm sure there's others. It's not an exhaustive list. But if you think about how does your product serve people? Is it something that is more of a unique niche, cool product? Is it something that has a really good profit margin? Or is it something that you're looking for a niche specific group of people to meet? Once you answer that question, I think it can determine what influencer you want to go after and how to discuss with the agency. And that's part of that's part of what you learn to do as you're navigating this.
I would suggest if any of you listeners out there, you're thinking about contacting an agency, and we'll give Jay's contact information out later. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if you had a question or something to reach out to him because right, Jay, and I'm not saying there's a bad way. There's probably, just like everywhere, good and bad agencies out there. I'm sure you've seen both.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, some people, it's just the arrangement is so one-sided with some of these people, but that's business. That's just life. That's the way it is. Look, we love to help people. We want everyone to be as successful as they can. So we're just trying to create opportunities where people can have massive exposure, and they can avoid mistakes and basically gain advocacy. So that's what I love to do. I mean, if there's something we can do to help someone, that's what we want to do. Doesn't mean not everybody has to have a working arrangement where we're working together consistently. It might just be we can point them in the right direction, and there's always someone who knows more. And there's people, some of you might know more about this than we do, but we know more about this. So the point is, if you don't work with the intent to collaborate and ask for help, you just can't grow. If you don't ask for help and say, hey, how can I improve? Is there something I can do better? Can you help me? Can I help you? These are the kind of questions that lead to growth. And I enjoy it. I really enjoy any conversation, Carmine, anytime we can help people, we help people. But sometimes, I mean, obviously, sometimes there are programs designed that warrant specific help, and they're set up to allow us basically to employ additional resources directly to that. But the bottom line is we just want to advocate for people and help people be more successful. And especially with some of these cool products that people don't know about. There's a lot of great products that are not selling. And it's like we want people to know more about those products.
Yeah, there is a lot of product out there, and here, at Earmark, we get products daily, whether we're putting it on our Fox show, we're trying to get manufacturing, whatever. But I think even you, Jay, right? You were probably pretty surprised when you first started in this industry, how many products are really out there that need help.
It's amazing how many people have, even good products, decent products, cool products. The fact is, it doesn't matter how good of a product it is. If people don't know it exists, you don't have sales, and that it's just two different things. But that's why there's a lot of average products out there that are they're crushing it. So how is it? It's because they have an audience. It's all basically boiled down to it's outreach. Yeah, sometimes there's a message behind the product, and they have a marketing campaign that is funny or interesting, and that's really cool. But ultimately, if there's not a lot of eyeballs in front of that product, then you really can't go anywhere. And Carmine, you've been doing this for decades. I'm sure you find it interesting. Even with all of your experience, you probably can't predict 100% what product is going to be really successful and what product is not. There's just a lot of factors, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. There's been products that not only myself, but people that have been in this industry, people that have, done some pretty big programs thought, hey, this product's, going to go big. We got to go to, and they were duds, and then there's programs and products that, were supposed to be okay and they blew up. I think there's a lot of factors involved. And, a lot of it is just what's happening in the world at the time, the costs and there's so many things I've seen somebody, it's kind of like a book. I've seen somebody change the color of their product where they were only selling a few a week. And then all of a sudden they're selling hundreds a week just by changing the color. So, it's one of those things where you have to keep growing. You have to be ready to pivot. You have to keep trying different things. And that's kind of what Jay's saying, there's a lot of different ways to get your product in front of your target market.
Mm-hmm.
But Jay, maybe you could touch on this. A lot of times, even myself, I think this is my target market. And I'm talking to them, and all of a sudden I'm like, it's not my target market. I mean,
right.
What do? Is it one of those things where you got to try different ways or talk to people? Do you do surveys? I mean, it's like shooting arrows in the dark, man. What do you do sometimes?
It's funny. I mean, sometimes how many stories have we heard of companies that succeed accidentally, or maybe they're moving along and all of a sudden they discover a whole different channel that they can sell a ton more product. And, we haven't even talked about outside of social media and outside of influencers and getting the word out there for exposure. We haven't even spoken about cross-selling opportunities or collaboration. And, so there's a whole another channel. There might be a completely parallel industry that they're already selling tons of product that they would love to sell your product. So there's a way to find those people and
talk about how this works. I forgot all about that is huge. That's actually sometimes better because the inventor, the product developer, you're giving that product to someone who's going to sell it for you, right? Talk about that a little bit. That's huge.
Yeah. It's huge. There's somebody who wants to maybe bolt on a different product. It makes their product better. They have more to offer. It makes them better. It makes you better. It's basically you're tapping into a whole distribution ecosystem that somebody else has built. And that certainly should be one of the tentacles of your marketing is what kind of cross-selling opportunities, what kind of collaborations. And you might come across it accidentally, but if you're intentional about networking, if you're going to trade shows, if you're listening to podcasts, look, 80%, 90% of what we're sharing might not mean anything to you, but maybe one thing we said sparks, wow, I didn't think about that. But if you're watching Netflix, you don't get that. But if you're listening to podcasts and you're reading and you're going to trade shows and you're on LinkedIn and you're a part of groups and there's a outside of LinkedIn, there's something called Alignable. It's like LinkedIn, but it's smaller and it's cool. People are very active in different groups in there. So the more active you're in those things, you can all of a sudden get creative. Have a maybe a notebook that says, who could I potentially sell with? And the ideas could come from that. And it's endless how many stories there are of people that started to move in a direction, and then all of a sudden they meet someone else in a different industry, and somebody says, are you kidding me? My audience would love this also. Like, for example, we go to the PGA golf show. A lot of golfers like pickleball, and there's a pickleball section in the PGA golf show. And who would have thought that originally? So now, would pickleball, if you have a pickleball product, do you want to get involved in golf and maybe talk to some golf influencers? Yes, maybe there's golf influencers that are friends with pickleball influencers, and you could develop a relationship with a golfer who introduces you to somebody who has 250,000 followers on Instagram, and they grab your product and they talk about it, and all of a sudden you start sales. So it's all about the intention of exposure. Number one, exposure. Number two, learning from experts so you can avoid mistakes. And then if you can gain advocacy from experts and you can do something that doesn't break the bank and have some intentional efforts towards some of this outreach, then, I would encourage that as well.
Yeah, I like this part, because the reason I like this cross-selling that you mentioned is because the opportunities are already there. Kind of like this podcast. We have a listening base. If someone wants to start another podcast on our network, they're going to drop the podcast on, and they're going to have a potential of all of our listeners listening in. So that's kind of what you're talking about. You're saying that I have a camping product, and Jay sells camping products to retailers, to stores, maybe on Amazon, whatever. And I say, hey, Jay, how do you like this product? And he says, I love this product. Jay's going to buy 50,000 of those products from me, and he's going to sell them. I think it's an awesome idea.
Yeah, 100%. And, we forget, everybody talks about networking, and it is powerful, making connections and networking. But if we start with this attitude of, I want to add value, and I want to find value, and I want to try to make connections and bridge a gap. So I want to learn. If you come with an inquisitive mind, great things happen. You start to ask the right questions. You start to see things maybe you haven't seen. And that's why it's important to expose yourself to these kinds of opportunities.
Yeah, I really like that idea. So there's multiple things you can do. So real quick, is there a platform right now, whether it's maybe in multiple platforms, Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or LinkedIn, that some of us, or there's a kind of age related, I don't know anything about Instagram. You know what I mean? I try to go in there and I end up, all over the place. Don't even know how to open my messages up, but I can go on Facebook or LinkedIn and I can use those fairly well. But in your mind, should we concentrate on one that we know, or should we learn one? Is there a better one for products and influencers?
I would say you have to be involved in all of them. And I think you have to listen to people that you respect, that are selling, that can teach you things that make sense, that resonate with you based on what you're trying to do. A lot of people are doing massive things on TikTok. A lot of people are doing things on YouTube, and then they bring things from YouTube to their website.
Yeah.
Some people, there's so many different ways of doing it. And I think that's what oftentimes paralyzes people. So the answer is all of them, and try to figure out which one makes the most sense for you. And there are people excelling in all of them, which is the beautiful thing. And so it's easy to find the people that are doing really well in all of these different platforms and figure out for yourself, where does it make sense for you?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of us aren't going to be able to do it. And I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I know, one, I don't really have that much time to do it. I don't want to really learn these platforms. I'll jump on them. But I think that in order to really do something right, you really have to know the specificities of these platforms. And to bring someone in, I think, is a good idea. But also, as Jay said earlier, don't spend too much or don't break the bank. Really do it on a performance type basis. Pay a little bit, get some good performance, get some traction with your product, make some money. I mean, selling your product and making money right now is so important for all of us as inventors, as product developers, as we're trying to sell our product into the market. And I know, Jay, you do some of this work for people, and it's not like a sales type thing. I know you have different packages. Can you just explain just some of the things in these packages that you do and why you do them? You don't have to go through all of them. I know you do so much, but from some of the things we talked about, I know you have multiple ones, and you start off, I mean, it's pretty economical. Can you just kind of explain some of them or whatever? And then we'll kind of give out your contact information. I think it's just important that people know that you do these things, but it was great for you to jump on and kind of give some of the information. I know you weren't ready to really talk about that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, it's just simple. We've got a couple of different, I have a few different offerings that range from posting the product on social media platforms that have pretty good following, intentionally looking for cross-selling collaboration opportunities that are specific for the product, continually sharing it with people at trade shows or podcasts or merchandising websites and whatnot, and then including 30 minutes once a month, sitting down, looking at the goals and what I can do to help, kind of a thing, sort of like a strategy session, little teaching on a couple of different topics. But then some of the increased ones, some of the other ones that are a little bit more might include leveraging some higher influence people that we know that can get the product on TV. We know some celebrities or professional athletes. We can get the product in front of them and pitch them on potentially endorsing a product and negotiating terms with social media influencers, not just exposing the product, but basically negotiating terms with them and giving them an opportunity to dialogue back and forth to see if the product is something that they want to represent, but doing that with numbers of people. And then obviously we can do that, and we can do that a little bit, we can do that a lot. So I've got 3 different offerings that basically range from exposure and advocacy and cross-selling opportunities, intentional networking, little teaching and coaching, advocacy and exposure, all the way to I'll reach out for them and connect with some professional athletes and celebrities and social media platforms, see if we can get it on TV and make sure that many thousands of people see the product and so on. So there's a lot that we can do.
Wow, it's huge. And I know you weren't, prepared to really talk about it, but I just wanted to let people know that there are some people out there that can help them, and one of the things that always scares me about hiring, I don't know, call it consultant or to hire somebody like yourself is, no one ever says, I'm guarantee you're going to sell this many units. It's hard to guarantee that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people overpromise and they underdeliver. I mean, you've got to have a realistic expectation, and you got to just, if somebody says, "Oh, I guarantee," this and the other thing, I don't think that's not really, you can't guarantee, because like we said before, there's so many unknown factors. The only thing you can guarantee is exposure, opportunity, avoid mistakes. Really, it's 3. I boiled it down to 3 different things. It's good exposure, like appropriate exposure, the specific exposure, like we were talking about, knowing who to reach and why. So it's number 1, exposure categorically. Number 2, avoid some very common mistakes that could basically save you some time and money. So there's some of the cost recoup there for the few dollars you might spend. And then the third one is really you're gaining an advocate and somebody who will be for you and for your product. And so wherever they are, they're going to be talking about you and talking about your product with high level industry professionals, people that could push the product through their channels. So it becomes, there's a ripple effect to that kind of advocacy. And if you look at it from that vantage point, as opposed to, I'm going to put some effort into this and throw a couple of dollars and we're going to see the return. Yeah, there should be a return, but sometimes there's not a return in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. And there's nothing wrong with putting effort into something for 30 or 90 days, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer, and you have to understand the value outside of what you're able to measure in dollars and cents. But you should measure in dollars and cents for sure at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to set a foundation somewhere. It takes time to really do that. I mean, it probably takes, again, I keep going back to influencers. It probably takes a few weeks just to get the contacts and have a meeting, and a month. And we all know when you're paying things or whatever, a month is like nothing. It goes by so quickly. Where just to kind of get things going, going to set a group up, or I'm going to contact a few influencers, a month can go by like that.
Yeah, it goes by so quick, and then somebody reschedules, and you have to have 4 meetings to have maybe 2 or 3 that get done, and then one of them's garbage and all of that. So we know how that goes, and then the key is to try to have a higher percentage of those people be the right people.
Yeah.
And also there are some skills in speaking to people, in sales skills and negotiating and being able to have an outcome that you want. There are skills to that.
Yeah, and knowing what a good deal or a bad deal is just as important, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Carmine, actually, you and I were on a call recently, and I knew right at the end of the call, you were like, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how it goes, and we're being advocates for clients. I mean, I'm not going to push or give a client a deal if I feel it's bad. I mean, of course, we'll tell them about it, but we have to live with this, and and the client does. Myself, I mean, I always put myself in those shoes of, is this a good deal? And if it's not, and it might be where, oh my God, I got to sell this product, we have to do it. But man, you just don't want to get involved with the wrong people or with the wrong deal or a licensing contract that just doesn't work, because in the long run, you just end up, really, I don't want to say being angry or mad, just really feeling bad that you got involved in it. It's tough.
Hey, that's a positive way to look at it. I mean, in some cases, Carmine, it shatters dreams, and that's devastating. Someone has a dream to do something for themselves, their own vision to put their product out for their own company. It's and all of a sudden, a couple of wrong decisions playing with the wrong characters and can really mess you up. So
yeah, you're really right. So, all right, my friend, I think that we are a little bit over the half-hour, 30-minute mark. I appreciate you coming on. I know we could have covered this all day. I mean, we're just kind of talking here. But maybe you come back on, we pick some specific subjects and really just dig into them and try to help our listeners as much as possible. Is it okay if we give out your email, let people contact you if they have some questions or they want to maybe talk to you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to help. So absolutely. Should I?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and give it out, and we'll put it on our website and on the show notes too. But go ahead and give out your email, and I think it'll be fine.
So it's Jay at earmarksourcing.com. Jay at earmarksourcing.com. Send me an email, and if I can help in any way, I would love to. Please let me know.
Yeah, awesome, man. That's really cool. And remember to check out our sponsors, Mercury Shopping, which is a new shopping site that's being loaded right now. It's a brand new site. New products being put up every day. Website is themercury.shop. It's not .com, it's .shop. So that's our sponsor here at the Launchpad. So make sure you check them out, and we're putting new products up there. If you have a product that you possibly want to be listed on the Mercury Shopping site, get in touch with us. Check out their site. At the bottom of the site, you can put in an application for your product to be listed on the site. And just to let you guys know, it's a brand new site. New products are being listed every day, so we're not really pushing it that hard. But soon it's going to be rolling, and you're going to want to be on there. So, Jay, as usual, man, pleasure talking to you. We'll set up some more calls. We'll set up some stuff. Any of you listeners out there have a question, make sure you send them in either to myself or to Jay. If possible, go on out to Google Play, iTunes, or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Leave us a review, rating. Make sure you subscribe to the show. And as always, we appreciate you listening in, and we will catch you next time on the Launchpad. You all take care.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you found the information helpful, we'd love for you to share our podcast and website with your friends. If you need help with an idea or invention, or have a topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode, don't hesitate to reach out through our website. Please note that all statements and discussions are the opinion of the hosts and guests and should not be considered legal or business advice.